Hey everyone, this is George Couros. Welcome back to another episode of the Innovators Mindset Podcast. And I'm doing this podcast. I just got off a call. I'm doing a conference in Sacramento this upcoming weekend. And by the time you hear this, because I always like to do these ahead, I've already done the event. And it is one of the largest CTE conferences in all of the United States. It is the state one for California. And sometimes when I'm having these conversations that I'm keynoting this conference with a wonderful group of educators, I honestly pinch myself. I cannot believe that I get these opportunities. And often people will ask me, like, how did you get to this place? Like, how did you get to have some of these events and be able to do some of the work that you do today? And it was totally unintentional. I had no idea. I know this sounds weird. I didn't even know this is a job. When I used to see speakers, when I was a teacher, I didn't know it was a job. I guess I should have assumed it was a job because they're doing stuff, but I didn't really know that. And I think one of my focuses in the work that I do every single day is some of the things that I've done unintentionally and created some really amazing opportunities for myself. I want to teach kids how to do intentionally, how to find some of those opportunities. So I actually recently wrote a newsletter, and I'll link it down below, about some of the ways that I've created my own opportunities in this work. And so, it doesn't mean, hey, I only need to listen to this if I'm a speaker. This applies to all aspects of life. And so the title of the email is 3 ways to build momentum towards your goals. And as you know, if you've listened to this for any time, I've written several books. I'm very proud of my latest book, Forward Together. The reviews on it have been absolutely amazing. I'm so incredibly proud because I think it's probably some of my best work ever, but I think it's so relevant to the time that we're in and really trying to bring people together to find a way forward, because we can spend all this time fighting, and all that time that we spend fighting is wasted when we can actually be working together to find a common vision. And I bring up this writing because if you would have asked me 20 years ago, would you become an author? I wasn't even reading stuff. So becoming an author is such a unbelievable process. But the only reason I actually became an author was as a principal. I wanted to implement digital portfolios with our students. And this is something we had heard about. This is something we want to try. But I was looking around to other schools and other communities that had talked about it, but no one seemed to do a really great job or something that we were aspiring to. So instead of thinking like, okay, well, we can't do this, I actually said, you know what? How can I teach something I've never learned? I'm just going to go first. So I jumped in and I saw some different ways that we could implement these digital portfolios. And the thing that really resonated with me was a blog/portfolio, because we really wanted to focus on literacy. We wanted kids constantly reading and writing. And I was just talking about this with a group the other day. If you think of that typical notebook that we use at the elementary level, where kids will write in a journal and then a teacher will write back. And let's say you have 25 kids in your class, you take the journals home to write back to every kid, and you might have a nice little glass of red wine, but don't spill wine because we don't want to know teacher drinks, right? So if you think about that, the teacher's writing 25 times to every one time a student was writing. And when I looked at that, I was thinking, well, who's becoming the most literate? And it's the teacher. The teacher is doing the most writing. So when we switched to this blog space, and this is, I kind of picked it up, was, yeah, you could get a student to write once, but then you'd have them comment to 5 of their kids, and then they'd be excited about their comments, and then they would respond back. So instead of them writing once, they're writing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and then the teacher could read what they wrote and maybe respond to a few people during the process. And I wouldn't even have been able to give that explanation or share this unless I went first. And when I started my own blog/portfolio, which is actually at georgecouros.com, that whole beginning of that started simply because I wanted to understand it, and it has become what it is today. I saw there were so many opportunities that started coming my way that I didn't even know existed, but it really pushed my learning. And so that's one of the big reasons I do what I do today, because I was just trying to figure something out for our students. And I'm actually really proud of that I had no intention and this accidentally happened. But when I say accidentally, there's certain behaviors and things that I really pride myself on that have helped me open up some of these doors. So I'm going to share some of the strategies I shared with my newsletter. And the first one is start before you feel ready. I know this is embarrassing to say. No one's ever accused me of overthinking stuff, right? Way too much thinking about things. If anything, I underthink. When I started this podcast, it was in January 2020, and I proudly started it before everyone started a podcast after COVID and things like that. I just want to start a podcast because I thought, hey, there's some potential here for learning, but I can't really effectively teach others how to use it unless I do it myself. So I remember taking my phone and plugging in a little mic and sitting in a dark room and just talking to my phone and just nervous and terrified of doing this. And I figured, I'm just going to start this process and kind of see where it goes. What often happens is people will actually buy all the equipment, or they'll figure, what do I need to have? What's this? Or like, I need to do this. Maybe I need a room. Maybe I need some soft lighting. Maybe I need all those things. And they overthink the process and they actually never begin, where I think, okay, I'm just going to begin and then I'll figure out the process later. I'll figure out all the stuff. I got the nice camera. I got the lighting. I got that. I got everything here too, right? And that's something I really pride myself on. And I remember this past summer in July 2025, I saw something and I had an idea for a book. And instead of like overthinking of it, I just said, I have an idea. And I started writing. And then I wrote out this. And 2 weeks later, Forward Together was done. And that has really been a process. People that find success are action oriented and they figure out the process. It is not the people who think too deeply about stuff, because when you think too much about the thing, you typically don't do the thing. And so that's important to me. Even with my health journey, I've lost a lot of weight. If you've been following me for any amount of time, I actually, if I see something and I was struggling, I was like, I'm going to try that thing. And there were so many, if you knew me for any amount of time, I had struggled with my weight. I still in my head struggle with my weight, being fully honest, even though I weigh the same that I did probably when I first lost the weight that I did years ago. I actually still struggle with this, but I would always try things. I always figure it out. And all those things, you can look at them as failures. Like, hey, I tried this, exercise didn't work. I tried this diet, didn't work. But really what it was, I just tried stuff. And even though overall the thing didn't work, I picked up little things. And eventually when I found success is when I put all those little things I learned into one space, and it really helped me. And that goes by starting with action. You got to move and figure out the process later. The second thing I shared in the newsletter is make and keep appointments with yourself. We are notoriously bad in our personal lives of kind of pushing aside certain things that we will do later, but we are amazingly good at keeping appointments with others. So if you commit, like I just had 2 meetings before this, I will be on time. But sometimes when I say like, I'm going to do this thing, or I'm going to write this thing, I kind of push it off. One of the best things that ever happened to me is when I was a principal, I also taught a spin class. And what I loved about teaching that spin class was I would get an amazing workout, but every single morning when I would go there, I would never think about it. I wouldn't get up and like, oh, do I feel like working out today? Do I feel like doing this? Because I was committed to others. And so when I was committed to others, it always got done. But the days I didn't teach the class, that's when I started getting in negotiations with myself. So what I've learned is basically I get up at the same time every single day. I go to the gym at the same time every day. It's not even a question. What I learned is that the commitment to others is the commitment to myself. If you want to find success in something and you feel like you have no time, block off time in your calendar and make it as sacred as it would a meeting with your boss, a meeting with an opportunity, something that you really want. Because that's where you find success, is when you commit to times that can really be beneficial to you the same way you commit to times to others. That's something that has really helped me over time. And the last one I shared, I want to keep this a short podcast today. And by the way, this is one of the commitments. I said, I'm going to do a podcast today. I'm going to get it done. It is February 23rd. You're listening to whenever you're listening to this, but I wanted to get something done because I like having a podcast out that's personal, just me, every single Thursday, comes out at the same time. That's something that I strive for. It's not, I have to do this on Thursday, it's that I have a podcast coming out every single Thursday because of my travel schedule. And the third one is what I'm doing right now. Share your learning with others. There's a really great quote from a gentleman named Clive Thompson, and he says, anyone can win an argument inside their head, but when you face an audience, you have to be truly convincing. The thinking I do is when I post this stuff, when I write these words, when I share this. And one of the things I've been doing the last year, and some people make fun of me, some people love it. I love it, and it makes it fun, is I'll post little videos on my stories on Instagram, and you can connect with me on Instagram down below, of me working out, but with some stupid dad quote or some dad jokes that's ridiculous. And it's kind of funny because it's not. But I don't like the motivational quotes. It doesn't do anything for me. I don't think anyone's like, oh, I want to be like George. But it's like, hey, I'm committing to work it out, and if I can bring a smile to your face. But so many people said, I gotta get moving. I gotta get moving. And I love that. You always hear like, if one person, great. The one person I'm really trying to get going is me. Because when I take those videos, when I post that means I'm at the gym. And when you commit to making your learning transparent, there is a certain process that you have to commit to. When I first got the idea for Forward Together, it was inspired by a teacher from West Islip and a tweet he posted. And I'm like, I have this idea. But then I called the superintendent later that day because I have a relationship with him. And I said, I'm writing this book, and here's what the book's about. This is happening. And he's like, that's so cool. And once I said it to him, I had no choice. I had to get it done. And sometimes when you actually share the process of what you're going to, you are more likely to get the product that you want from that process. And of course, I want to help people out. Of course, I want to do that. But it also is like, hey, there's a commitment to myself that I'm trying to actually make. And I remember sharing something I went through that was really, really tough. And I posted an email. And what was amazing, I talked about how I've dealt with change in the past. A principal had reached out to me, said, I held on to this email. I just went through something and it just helped me out tremendously. And it's great. I'm so grateful because the thing that you're struggling with, if you talk about it, someone else is struggling with it too. And they find it, and they often find it exactly when they need it. And I was so moved by his email that I didn't respond back to him. I called him. I found his phone number, called him immediately to tell him how much he made my day. That learning that you share creates an accountability to others, but it also creates accountability to yourself. And so here's what I shared at the end of this email. If you want to build momentum, commit to yourself and share the journey with others in some way. Do that today. And I promise you that a year from now, if you look back, you might not have accomplished what you set out to do, but you will be much better in the process. Growth will become inevitable. If you ask me in June of 2025, are you going to write another book? No way. And I just commit to writing. I commit to doing stuff. And then August 2025, I had a book already ready to go and published it. And I'm very proud of it too. So I think when you just commit to these things, you never know. The weird thing is sometimes the aspirations you have, you will actually go past them. You'll go past them. And I've learned that from experience that I just move. And eventually sometimes your dreams will come true. And sometimes you actually figure out what your dreams are. And that's something I'm very proud of. So just kind of grateful for all the opportunities I have, but I do want to share, like, how do I get some of these opportunities? It's by moving. It's by just going, sharing that learning and really connecting with others. So just want to share that with you. I hope in some way, whatever your dreams and aspirations are, this has helped you, whatever that may be. But if you're here still, thanks for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day. I appreciate all you do. Take care.